I'm going to give you an intro to the sewing machine. If you know how to sew on a sewing machine, this is the one you're not supposed to watch. I was going to do a video of patterning and what I use for patterns, which if you want to skip and wait until next time, I use slopers, which I may end up showing you, which are basically a pattern for anything. It's somebody's exact body measurement, and you can go off of that and add inches and add whatever you want to do off of it. I'll show you how to make one of those and show you how to cut out a tunic and a hat next video. But this time I'm going to Orlando, I guess tomorrow morning at like 4 in the morning, and so I'm kind of scatterbrained today. I don't really feel like getting anything up, but I will show you how to use the sewing machine, okay? Okay, so this is my sewing machine. It is a Bernat, which is a cheaper version of a Bernina, which they're good sewing machines. They're run about $200, I think. Maybe a little bit more depending on which model you get. You can get a Brother or a Singer from Walmart or from anywhere for like $100 to $200, but they're crap. They're going to last you about a year, and then the bottom tension is going to start messing up and there's no way to fix it, so it's not worth it. If you're going to seriously get involved in sewing and cosplaying, invest in a good machine, or invest in a machine that is going to work. This has been a workhorse for me for years, and I've gone through, when I started sewing, I went through several Singers. They're not what they used to be. They're all metal. There used to be all metal gears in there, and they're all plastic now, so they're poop. And if you have one, I'm sorry. Maybe it'll hold up for you. Maybe you'll be lucky. I'm not lucky. But I'll show you what to do. Okay. So most sewing machines are basically the same. Right up here is what you call stitch length, and it is currently set on 4 on my sewing machine, and this is called a basting stitch. And a basting stitch is when there's big spaces in between the stitches. It's something that you want to use when you gather, which I can show you how to do, or something you're sewing very temporarily, but it's a very loose stitch, so it's not very useful. On the far end of that is very tight and tiny stitches, which you use for buttonholes mostly. What one of my costume shop friends used to call blind nun stitch. I'm not really sure what that means. But usually when you're sewing, you're going to want it at about a 3. That's a good normal stitch. This, and it may be different on your machine, is the width. It basically moves the needle position. I'm sure you can't see, but it scoots it way over here at 7, or back to the middle at 0. And this is for when you want to do a zigzag stitch. But if you're just doing a straight stitch, you keep it at 0. Easy enough. I'll show you how to thread the machine on this one. You've got this and this in place. And most of them are a little bit different. The guides are a little bit different, but they all have this part here. Don't my nails look good? They all have this part here that goes down and then up and then hooks in this thing. Now this thing, you want to be at the highest position. This is what's going to go up and down when you're sewing, see? And you want to roll it all the way forward until it gets up at the highest part and loop it through. And then there's some more thread guides down here. And then stick it in the needle. In the eye of the needle is the sewing machine. And my thread is so fuzzy and it won't go in. That's when I get my scissors out and cut it off to make it go in better. Now there are 2 kind of sewing machines. Okay, so that's threaded. Now down here is the bobbin, and this is what I was talking about. There's 2 kind of sewing machines. There are drop-in sewing machines where you just drop the bobbin in and loop it around. And there's kinds, front loaders, which some people prefer that, some people prefer drop-in. I like drop-in, it's easier. Front loader has a little cartridge that you pull out and push in. Most Singers now, I think, have that. Preference really. I mean, I don't know. I have a friend Amy, that likes front loaders, and I do not. But you just pull that in with that thread. That's easy. when you're starting out sewing, just get a little test piece of fabric. This is some of that green twill I had from before, just to show you. So I'm going to turn it on. Now it's set on 3 and set on 1 here, and this dial here shows you what kind of stitch you're doing, and it's showing a straight stitch. So you're going to lift your foot up and pop this under here. Usually when you're sewing also, there's a thing called, there's seam allowance, which if you sew it right up at the edge here, that's like a, I think like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Usually you want to sew it at a 5/8 inch seam allowance, which is about there. It should be marked on your machine. I know in the costume shops I worked in, they do it at an inch seam allowance so you can have a lot of wiggle room. But you got your, yeah, let's go. So just let her rip. Now what you're going to want to do when you start and end any seam is back up a little bit and go forward, and at the end back up a little bit and go forward. This is my reverse on my machine. They're different places. The reason you do that is to secure this sewing so it does not come unraveled. Now, before you cut your thread off, again, you're going to roll this where this is all the way up to the top and lift the foot up, and you can cut it. Most machines though have a little cutter on the side here. You can just cut it through. And make sure you trim your tails, because that looks unprofessional if you've got threads going. When I was in junior high and home ec, I remember I got, which I knew how to sew. This made me so mad. This is so dumb. I got a bad grade on a sewing project because I didn't trim my threads. So there's the moral of that story. Okay, so there's the front, and there's the back, just a straight stitch. Now unless you've got a serger, which is really cool, and I do, but it's a pain in the butt so I don't mess with it most of the time. You're going to need to finish the edges with a zigzag. And please finish your edges, because look at this. It's going to do this. And so on the inside of your costume it's going to fray and rip, and it's not going to last long. If you finish your edges, it saves so much time. So usually after I cut out anything, you finish the edges first, and then you start sewing it together. But how you're going to do that on a basic sewing machine is with a zigzag stitch, which I've selected here. Someone Skyped me. And a little bit looser, 3.5 to 4, now that's the length, remember? And here's the width. Now the width is where you adjust your zigzag. If you want a really wide zigzag, you can go about 7. I do about 5. After that, you're just going to get it right on the edge, and remember, back it up. It's important when you're sewing not to pull on the fabric. Your hand is on there, you're just guiding it through the machine. Because if you pull on it, it will mess up your tension in your machine. My blade needs sharpening. Okay. That's a little too close to the edge, Peyton. What the crap are you doing? Okay, let's try it again. I'm trying to prove a good point. Acting like I know what I'm doing here. Okay, cool. Can you see this? Like that. And that's going to keep it, when it starts to fray, it's going to go down to this and not fray. You can use pinking shears as well if you want to. And pinking shears are scissors that the blade is shaped like that. And that really enforces it. So that's it. I guess for a basic introduction. There's also on different machines, there are crazy stitches, and most machines do have a buttonhole. Some have a 4-step buttonhole. This one has a 1, which comes with a special foot, and you go to buttonhole here and a little bit wide here and select buttonhole in this, and put the special foot down and hold the gas down, and it'll sew you a buttonhole. I think the most important thing about sewing on a machine, I have a lot of friends that are intimidated by it, but it's not intimidating. You can screw up. Because I screw up all the time. I think everybody does, and that's why they have seam rippers. But there you go. And hopefully next week I'll be showing how to draft a pattern for the tunic and for the hat and undershirt and pants, so you can get that stuff cut out. I'll see you then.